Donald Trump's unprecedented relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un remains one of the most controversial and polarizing diplomatic efforts in modern history, with some praising it as a groundbreaking step toward peace and others condemning it as an act of legitimizing one of the world's most oppressive dictatorships. Before Trump, no sitting U.S. president had ever met face-to-face with a North Korean leader, as past administrations followed a policy of diplomatic isolation and economic sanctions to pressure the hermit kingdom into denuclearization. However, Trump, known for his unconventional and often unpredictable approach to foreign policy, took a radically different stance, beginning with a volatile exchange of insults referring to Kim as Little Rocket Man and threatening North Korea with fire and fury like the world has never seen in response to continued nuclear missile tests in 2017, a period that saw tensions between the two nations reach a dangerous peak. Kim in turn called Trump a mentally deranged U.S. dotard and defiantly continued testing nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missiles, bringing the world closer to a potential nuclear conflict than it had been in decades. Despite this fiery rhetoric, both leaders made an abrupt pivot toward diplomacy, shocking the world when Trump announced plans to meet with Kim in Singapore in June 2018, an event that was widely publicized and marked by highly choreographed photo ops, including an extended handshake that symbolized a temporary thaw in relations between the two nations. The summit resulted in a vague agreement in which North Korea committed to working toward complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, though critics noted the absence of any verifiable enforcement mechanisms or timelines, allowing Pyongyang to continue its weapons program without tangible consequences. While Trump touted the meeting as a major diplomatic victory, arguing that his personal rapport with Kim was a key factor in preventing further nuclear escalation, skeptics pointed out that North Korea had historically used diplomatic engagement as a stalling tactic while secretly advancing its nuclear capabilities. In a move that further stunned both allies and adversaries, Trump continued his engagement with Kim, holding a second summit in Hanoi, Vietnam, in February 2019, which ultimately collapsed after Kim demanded the complete lifting of sanctions in exchange for only partial denuclearization. This failure exposed the limitations of Trump's strategy, as it became evident that Kim had no real intention of fully dismantling his nuclear arsenal, which he viewed as a critical deterrent against potential U.S. military intervention. However, Trump's willingness to break with traditional diplomatic norms did not end there. In June 2019, he became the first sitting U.S. president to step into North Korea, crossing the heavily fortified Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, and briefly setting foot on North Korean soil alongside Kim, a moment that was captured in iconic images and hailed by Trump as a historic breakthrough. The move was seen by supporters as a bold and strategic act of diplomacy, demonstrating Trump's ability to engage adversaries in ways no other president had dared. But to critics, it was nothing more than a glorified publicity stunt that handed Kim a massive propaganda victory without securing any meaningful concessions in return. The controversial nature of Trump's outreach was further amplified by his frequent praise of Kim, calling him very talented, smart, and even stating that the two leaders fell in love through their exchange of letters, a characterization that alarmed many foreign policy experts who viewed Kim as a brutal dictator responsible for horrific human rights abuses, including mass executions, forced labor camps, and extreme repression of political dissidents. This unorthodox diplomatic approach alienated some of America's closest allies, particularly South Korea and Japan, who were left uncertain about the U.S. commitment to their security, especially as Trump frequently expressed dissatisfaction with military alliances and defense agreements, even hinting at the possibility of withdrawing U.S. troops from the Korean Peninsula. While Trump's supporters argue that his engagement with Kim prevented war and opened the door for future negotiations, his detractors maintain that it did little to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions, as Pyongyang resumed missile tests in the later years of Trump's presidency and continued weapons development under the Biden administration. Moreover, the fact that no formal denuclearization agreement was ever reached highlights the fundamental challenge of dealing with North Korea, a regime that has consistently defied international pressure and thrived on strategic deception. In hindsight, Trump's North Korea policy remains one of the most debated aspects of his presidency, with its long-term impact still uncertain. But one thing is clear, his meetings with Kim Jong-un, filled with spectacle, controversy, and unprecedented moments, reshaped the global perception of U.S. North Korea relations and left a lasting mark on international diplomacy, for better or worse.